Hello. Today I have got Sarah joining me, and we are talking about a topic that is often not talked about enough, and we need to talk about it more so that it's not in the shadows, creating problems and issues in all of our lives. And it's about sexual assault, but not just this, also around spiking of drinks and the impact it has, not just the impact of how after the experiences, how we heal. And Sarah today is going to be talking about her healing journey and how she used the tools that she knew about and learnt about to bring herself into a place of love. Hi Sarah, how are you?
Hi, I'm good and I'm happy to be here with you and share my story.
Yeah, I'm super glad you're here. So, I have heard your story before, and you shared it recently. I wonder for any listeners if you could run through what happened to you. Are you okay talking about the experience of what actually happened?
Yes, definitely. Um Let me know if I'm if I'm off track, like you can really back in, kind of thing. Because it's sort of a long story, and so I'm just gonna talk about the beginning and how it started. So I met a man online. We were talking for a bit and we decided to meet up. I ended up going back to his place, had a glass of wine, and then, I had, like, 1 glass of wine and then another glass, like, the beginning of another glass of wine, and then after that moment, I was just unconscious for about 6 hours when I
Wow.
tracked the timeline of when I woke up again, and, I woke up naked in his bed. I grabbed my things, rushed out of there, felt very ill and nauseous, and I think that's part of the drugs that were in my system and what I've read about those things that can cause these, like, it's almost like the worst hangover you felt in your life. And I got really sick on the drive home, and I just drove home and I tried to act like I just didn't want I wanted to act like it didn't happen and that it went away.
Mhm.
Um and then after that, I just had this overwhelming anxiety, depression, overcome me, and I just couldn't be silent about it anymore, and I felt very traumatized in my body. I was having all of these physical symptoms like jaw clenching and fist clenching and certain things that I felt strong in my mind, but I felt like my body had been through something that I was avoiding looking at.
Mm.
And my body was telling me what I needed to know when I was trying to avoid it. And then I just couldn't be silent anymore, and I had to tell people I had to get help, and from that moment on, I that led me to the trajectory of healing and energy work, and it led me to my career now in energy work, and it was a catalyst for something good, actually. I was able to turn it into that, but it was a long road of pain before getting to that place.
And thank you for sharing that with me. When you so from reading around trauma in the body and from knowing my own experience of trauma in the body, our bodies hold on to things that we don't process, and they come out in elements, and they come out in ways until we are able to deal with them or able to work with them and process them, and that can be donkey's years after, like, yeah, at the moment I'm working through stuff that happened, like, I don't know, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
35 years ago, and that sort of amount. So it's definitely, our bodies hold on to these things. And you mentioned around the clenching, of your fists and that. So was there any other physical symptoms that told you that something was amiss within your body? And within your kind of, so let's start with body, but then I'm interested in your mind
Yeah.
and interested in your energy.
Totally. Yeah, it definitely goes sort of in that order. It was like body, then mind, then energy. So the body was, I would describe myself at that time as like a walking exposed nerve. it just felt like I was like radiating anxiety, and I was freaked out by things. I wanted to have a lot of comfort around me. Like I was starting to dissociate. I didn't know what was real, what was fake. I remember I was at the grocery store with my mom, and I was trying to act like it was all good and I was fine and nothing happened. And then I just had this like moment of like derealization, I think it's called, or dissociation. And I just started feeling like everything was fake. My body felt very overwhelmed by the noises and the people. And this is so not like me.
Mm.
And I just wanted to get home as soon as possible. And I started getting very irritable. And I was with my mom and I was like, can we just go? And that's not like me either. And I just wanted to sort of curl up in a ball and never be seen again because that was the only way I felt safe.
Yeah.
Um, so, and the physical sensations were like a tingling, like you just feel like every nerve is activated, every cell is activated in a very unsafe way.
It's like
And
being on almost like high alert. Your body in
yes,
high alert. Yeah. Mm.
totally like fried. Like, and I remember once I started doing I went on the journey of healing. We can talk about that more later, but I was meditating every day and then I started implementing yoga, which I had always done yoga before, but then I stopped and then I implemented it again. And my first class back, I was completely shaking the entire class
Wow.
because I think like I almost couldn't stand because my knees were shaking so bad. And I think that was like energy leaving my body. And that just shows how much was sort of trapped in me from whatever had happened for those 6 hours I was unconscious.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the body
Yeah.
keeps the score, and like I said, my fists were constantly clenched and my jaw was constantly clenched, and that's what would tell me, "Oh, something's not okay," because my mind was in survival mode and it wasn't telling me something wasn't okay.
Mm. And as you were sort of being aware of that in your body, what what did you read that as? You read that as you said that you read that kind of as something was going on and something had happened. What was your next step after that? Like, what thoughts were you having? Kind of what was where were your feelings going with it?
Yeah, so my body was going through this, and then that triggered an awareness in my mind, "Oh, I'm not okay. Something did bad happen to me, and I need to" it was almost unavoidable because my body was so loud about it. And then my mind started to feel like it was cracking as well. Like I couldn't trust my thoughts. I started to have flashbacks. I started to have intrusive thoughts, which is just like you're going about your day and then all of a sudden you're hit with this scary moment that happened.
Yeah.
Um and then once was having the flashbacks and the intrusive thoughts, I was not okay at all. I just was sober. I was crying all the time. I couldn't go to work. I just didn't wanna deal with anything, and I didn't. I didn't work. I just stayed home, and then I eventually sought help, but it was like a cracking of my body that made its way into my mind, and I felt like my mind was breaking, and that was probably the scariest part when you can't trust your thoughts and your mind is feel like you're going crazy.
Mm.
Um and you try so hard to push it down, but something in me physically, I really feel God was present with me because I couldn't ignore it if I tried. Like it just, which was a blessing, even though it was so painful to actually feel the whole experience. I and not just push it down for years and then deal with it later. My body wouldn't allow it. My mind wouldn't allow it. I had to deal with it now.
And how long was that stage of kind of like from the experience to actually kind of going through all of this to the point where you reached where you needed to do something about it, like tell people about it and
I probably told my somebody about it maybe, like, 3 weeks in. It was my parents. I finally broke down and told my parents, and I literally couldn't, like there was this huge lump in my throat, and if I didn't tell somebody immediately, I thought, "Maybe I'll hurt myself, maybe" like, I just wanted all the pain to stop, and I felt like God was putting that lump in my throat so that I could do something healthier about it and just say the words like, "This happened to me." And even that alone relieved me a little bit of the PTSD symptoms I was having. Um, and then once I actually got help, it was probably like it was fairly quickly because I just felt like these things kept coming into my life. So maybe it was like a month and a half after
Okay.
it
Mm.
happened.
Yeah. But that's still a long time to hold that within your body and to hold it within kind of your being, and really, really challenging to kind of be with that. And so you mentioned that you've got flashbacks. Did you then were you getting them flashbacks of the situation?
Mhm. I was getting flashbacks of because I don't remember, I still to this day don't remember, and I think that's a blessing, but I was getting flashbacks of I didn't listen to my intuition. It was screaming at me the whole time. I was in a place where I was tapped in, but I wasn't following it as much. I wasn't as open to my gifts as I am now. And I was having flashbacks of like walking up to his place. I got this really gross smell of trash. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a sign I shouldn't go here. And then I went anyways. So I would have flashbacks of these moments of like that led me to that point. And I'm sitting in this place feeling like I don't like this place. This is sort of dark and there's a bad vibe here. And I would have flashbacks of that, or I'd have flashbacks of moments of us talking before it all happened.
Mhm.
So and that was obviously triggering because it was the night that it happened. So I kept having these flashbacks of that night that led up to that moment. So that's more what the flashbacks were.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
And when you and I've shared, I think, with you that I haven't had anything like your experience, but when I was younger, in
Mhm.
my early 20s, I'd have my drink spiked when I was at a club, and thankfully nothing happened. But when I woke up the next day, I had a man's face in my. I kept on this man's head, and I know that nothing happened. Well, I'm assuming nothing happened. But I was not with it, and my poor friend at the time had to try and get me home, and nobody would let me go home because they thought I was drunk, really seriously drunk. And the next day as well, the kind of slurring my words, even though I was completely sober, I was slurring and not in a. I was like, "What is going on?" And
Mhm.
yeah, so that having something coming into your mind is quite a scary place to be. It's like pushes you off a little bit because I guess there's a gap in time that you're not aware of what happened. You know about yeah.
Totally. There's a gap in time and there's like this it's traumatizing to be drugged. I mean, even if nothing happens to you, you're completely you have no motor skills, you can't move your body, you don't know what happened. It's the fear of what could have happened is terrifying and that someone would do that to you, and it's just a very scary experience. And then even like after that experience, I have a fear of being drugged now, even if it's I'm at a friend's house and I'm getting tea. Like and I know they would never do anything. It's more of this fear of like, what if they bought tea from this bad guy? And it's like this irrational fear now of like being hyper vigilant about what I'm drinking and everything. So I mean, it is a traumatizing experience for sure.
I
Just
get
that.
I get that definitely because I never went out in that town again after it happened. I just didn't want to go. And also very aware of my drinks and making sure that nobody would go near my drinks, have my hand over my drinks. And I think the shock in my body on why would somebody do that? I just could not understand how that could possibly be the case that somebody must be spiked somebody's drink. But yeah. So going back to your experience then, so you decided to report this. What happened when what was your experience of that?
So once I told my parents, the next morning, my mom and I went to the police station,
Yeah.
and the police station was in a high-end area of Los Angeles, so I assumed I don't know what I assumed. I was watching too much Law& and Order or whatever, and, like, throughout my life. And you think it's going to be this. Well, I'll just go back to what happened. So I walked in there and it was very dark. The lights were flickering. It's like they had no budget, or it was just a very dingy area or, building. And I walked in and I talked to this man. I had told him what happened. And at this point, I've showered. It's been, months, a month past. I, um, I looked clean. I looked nice. I looked like it didn't happen to me. So, and I wasn't like distraught crying and like this, because that is also just not my personality. So, you know, everyone copes in their own way. So you can't judge somebody by that. But I felt very judged by the fact that I didn't look like I had been raped, or I didn't look like I had been drugged. So I talked to the guy and he goes, "I'm so sorry that happened to you." He was very nice and he said, "Would you like to talk to me, or would you like to talk to a woman about what happened?" And obviously I would like to talk to a woman because that feels more safe to me. And I actually ended up regretting that decision because she came out, she was very cold. She was very like the second she came out, she, I think, looked at me and didn't believe me. Like, I don't know if she thought I was like a crazy girlfriend that was just trying to get back at somebody. Like, that's sort of the vibe she was giving me. And I thought she was going to take me over to have some privacy to talk about it. She just took me like a couple feet away from the other people that were in the waiting room area and near a vending machine. And I had to tell her the whole story. And she questioned everything I said. If I got tripped up on a detail because I was trying to remember it, she'd be like, "But I thought you just said this." Like, it was very no compassion, and it already felt like she was believing him over me, and she didn't even hear his side of things. And that's when I just felt like I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this to get justice. I don't care about I have such a spiritual belief, and I live by the laws of God and love and the universe. And that is going to do way more for me than this woman or this place ever could. However, I want this out there in case he does this again. I want it to be noted on his, if somebody else comes and says, "This happened to me at this house," I want it out there for that girl or boy, whatever, man. So then she's being very rude. It was a very uncomfortable situation. I almost felt like I was like fighting with her to tell her like, "No, this happened to me." Like, it was like a very weird thing. And then she went and called him. I gave her his number.
Wow.
And then I was like, "Is this normal? Like, they just call the person or, and I guess, I don't know, that's their protocol. I'm not sure." So she went and called him and came back. She said, "Oh, he said you were very nice and that you had a great night and you guys had some drinks. And, he kept talking about how nice you were and how great of a night it was, like fully on his side." And I'm like, "That's not what happened." And she's like, "Well, I thought you didn't remember anything." And I'm like, "We didn't have a nice night. I was unconscious for 6 hours. Like, that's horrible." And so it was weird, sort of a combative experience with her. And then I just was like, "Okay, take um my report," and me and my mom left. So it was very uncomfortable. I've never heard back to this day, but like I said, I I'm not going to I was aware at the time that I'm not giving my truth over to you to tell me it's true. Like, I didn't deserve what happened, no matter if I was there on a date or if I was a sex worker. That should not have happened to me.
I agree.
It should not have happened to anyone. And she and this police system doesn't confirm or that was not my truth, and that didn't happen to me. My body is screaming at me. My body is the truth and telling me what happened. Because you can get tripped up because what these guys make you feel is, or these women, whoever is drugging people, makes you, what they do from what I've learned is they make you think, "Oh, you just drank too much." So like that night, he kept filling my glass of wine. He wanted me to keep drinking so that I would think, "Oh, I just blacked out from drinking too much."
Yeah.
But I was a party girl. I did not black out after 2 glasses of wine at the time.
Yeah.
So it's confusing, and I understand the sense of, I get from anyone's perspective, you have, from like a police officer's perspective, you can't just fully believe everything, but you can have compassion in receiving information and then go about your day of, doing what you need to do with that information. And
Yeah.
she was like already decided that I was lying when I first walked in, I think based off of the way it looked.
And
So,
this, I think, is unfortunately, and not more than unfortunately, this is just how it seems to be, and the system needs to change. It needs to change over in your country in America and in the UK. As the victim is put on trial. It's the victim, and I use the word victim, but the person who's been assaulted,
yes.
they are the ones that are made to feel like they've got to prove that they have actually told the truth. And they're scrutinized for their character, they're scrutinized for all of that. And what that does is, what I'm hearing and what I want to acknowledge within you is your strength of character, and that strength within you to know that, um, not not be put off course of who you are and what you know is to be the truth within you. But I wonder how many women, or I imagine a lot of women, go and have exactly the same situation that you've been through and would be thrown with how to process that and then move forward from that in any way, because they've experienced having the person who's assaulted them phoned up or that experience, which is just not not how it needs to be. What I'm really noticing when I've been reading around this is how much the system does not support women. It doesn't support women in speaking their truth, but also doesn't support women in honoring what needs to be done to solve this situation so that they know that they're safe and they know that other people aren't going to be having the same experience by the same person that's done it to them. But there doesn't seem to be that going on in the UK and America. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's really, really an epidemic. It's
yes,
like
massively.
a horrible experience. And thank God I had parents that supported me, friends that supported me, a boss at the time that supported me and believed me and loved me and knew like my truth. And if you don't have those things and this happens to you, like,
Yeah,
I see the world differently in the sense of like a homeless person on drugs, or this traumatized, angry person in your family, or whatever it is out there. I'm like, I have no idea what that person has gone through. And I see myself in you now had I not had the proper ways of getting support for this, because you just want to escape completely from your body and reality and your mind, and you'll do it at any means. And that's how I felt. That was the turning point for me, because I was thinking, if I just had one Xanax, I would feel so much better right now. And then I went, oh shit, I need to get help immediately, because that Xanax, those pills, the escapism is looking really nice right now with how horrible I feel inside.
yes, and that going within to and looking at it takes courage. It does take courage, and it also it's really important to have some support around you, and I've got almost scaffolding around you to help it when you're, like, going into that going within and support. So, tell me about your journey of healing from the experience.
Um, I also want to say back to receiving justice in the justice system.
Yeah.
Um, you know, waking up to the reality of women. I want to say that, like, if this has ever happened to you and you're listening to this, like, I believe you. You're valid in your experience, and you don't need some police officer that has probably been through her own trauma that's unhealed to validate if it happened to you or not. And energetically and universally, in the way the law of energy works, that abuser is going to get their lessons learned. They're going to have to experience what they did to you when whether in the afterlife or in another life, or when they pass, whatever it is, like, you will have justice on a higher level than the police system could ever give you. And I would just want to remind you of that. And I also, that being said, hope that this is changed and there is change within the system so that women can receive justice, even on a level that's not your typical, like, horrible abuse situation that I think they prioritize if you actually have, like, cuts and bruises and stuff on you.
I'm
So
I'm glad you bring that in because I really feel that that having that sense of connection with something bigger, be that the universe, be that God, be that source, and having that trust and connection in really I feel helps one let go of trying to keep score, let go of trying to make sure it's fair, let go of trying to make sure that they get their justice, because actually in our hearts we know what is our truth, and we are answering to the universe, we're answering to source, we're answering to God, you know what I mean? So in that way, it's letting go of it, and I think that there's a perspective change that needs to happen in a shift, and that doesn't mean being a walkover, and you're still having boundaries and still not accepting the way things need to be. But I also think that it's not getting yourself caught up in resentment, either
yes.
refusing to move forward from situations. It's
Yeah.
letting it go and knowing that karma, the universe, it will be taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bigger thing at play here that the justice system isn't tapped into. And I would love for the justice system to incorporate energetics, and I'm hoping that's where we're going, because that's, you know, what is so telling, and that is truth, in my opinion, of what your body is saying, what your intuition was saying, all of these things.
Mhm.
So, um, I was gonna say something, but I forgot, so.
Okay, that's okay. So tell me it will come back. Tell me about your healing journey. So what was the moment when you felt
So
like, yeah,
I
like
Yeah, sorry. So I felt like, the thing with the Xanax, the thing about wanting, some sort of medication to make it go away, and then I went, "Oh god, I need help immediately." And then I was living in Culver City in Los Angeles at the time, and then I was driving in Marina Del Rey, it's this little area, and I was crying. I was in my grandma who just passed away. I was in her car because my mom was watching her, and I felt her with me, like, her really guiding me in that moment. And I remember I went to get a matcha because I couldn't drink any coffee at the time because I was so, um if I had any caffeine, it would spike my heart rate, and then I would feel
mm,
panicked because I was already trying to not feel panic 24/7. And I got myself a matcha because I thought that that would be better, but it wasn't, and I took a sip of it, and I felt immediately panicked, and I was just started bawling because I was so upset that, like, nothing about my life before this happened I can have.
mm,
And I was driving down, and I just noticed this psychic shock with, like, the picture of a body and the 7 chakras on there, and I just felt really drawn to it, so I said, "Okay, I'll pull over and just." I'm walking up to the door, just I just am desperate for someone to help me, and that was more in alignment with my way of thinking. I was open to a therapist, but the spiritual world is definitely more in my vibe,
yeah.
and, so I walked up to the door, and nobody answered, and I called and left a message, and then a couple days later, I got a text back from the woman. Her name was Doreen. Shout out to Doreen. She changed my life. And she texted me back. I didn't answer her. I ignored it. I was like, whatever. It wasn't meant to be. I didn't get her when she was there. And then she texted me again and said, "Hey, do you want to come in?" So I came in. She gave me a reading about my life, a tarot card reading, and she was really spot on And she didn't mention the assault at all. But it was interesting because she gave me information about all these other things in my life that were really valuable for me to know.
Mhm.
And I think looking back now, I think that was because spirit was showing me that I'm so much more than this event. Like the things in my life are still true, are still alive. The things I want to do with my life, the people that I love, like all those things were still alive within me. And what my whole life wasn't this thing. So, because I thought it was weird at first that she didn't bring it up. So then I told her what had happened, and then she sort of tapped into that and was like, I have this chakra healing that I think would really benefit you. Are you interested? In that moment, it was like a big chunk of money, and I was like, yep, sign me up. I just felt so safe with her. And then it was like 5 months of her. We meditate at the same time every night, and she helps cleanse my energy, and I do a meditation every night. And it's the same meditation that I offer clients all the time. If I've ever sent you, you're my client, and I've ever sent you a meditation, it's probably one of those.
Wow.
And they're so pure and clean energy, and I really love them. And we just meditated every night, and she worked on my chakras, and then I completely expanded my awareness of how important the chakras are and how intuitive I am. And it was hard at first. Like if I didn't do the meditation, I would still be in a complete trauma response, but it grounded me every single night. And then I was able to go back to work. I was able to, hang out with friends slowly. A lot of stuff still gave me anxiety. Um, but it was COVID, so it was kind of okay because it wasn't as, we were a lot on lockdown and stuff. And then, I just eventually they didn't need them as much anymore. And I eventually was able to drink coffee again. And I was able to, slowly but surely. And then I incorporated yoga back into my life. And then that class that I mentioned earlier, I was shaking the entire time. But I couldn't do yoga at first. I couldn't get into my body like that. I could only do meditations.
Wow.
And the little side story is right after around the time I met her, I went to house sit in this house by the beach for 6 months. It was like perfect timing because it was such a healing space. And I watched this cat, and the cat would know how anxious I was. I would just be laying there so anxious, like I wanted to crawl out of my skin, and the cat would come and lay on my chest, like, every time. So I had this little healing bubble. It was like God put me perfectly in this space for me to just this sanctuary for me to heal from this.
Mm. Wow. And what I'm hearing is that um, it was a gradual process. It was a gradual process, but it was you showing up each
Mhm.
time, you showing up and being present to what was there and um, committing to yourself that you were going to be there on that journey.
Mhm.
When you think, do you think about your assaulter at any points, and what comes up for you now?
I do. That's a good question. I have forgiven him. I know at a higher level, which I know is hard to hear or accept, but on my spiritual path, this is how I look at things, that I chose this.
Hmm.
And it was to awaken or crack something within me that I needed to awaken. And I think you don't have to awaken on a very intense traumatic journey like this. You can do it through other ways. But there's something that it was with purpose, and I made it be purposeful.
Mm.
So I choose to look at him as a child and look at him in a way that he is so traumatized that he can't survive without traumatizing others because he wants company in his misery.
Mm.
And that's a hurt, broken child from whatever he's been through. I don't care and I don't know, but I see that. And I forgive him for what he's done, and I hope he heals. I hope he never does this again. I hope he comes to the light and feels remorse and moves into it. Maybe not this life, but the next life makes up for it in some way and tries to give back and becomes a monk or something. Or just I forgive him and I release him, and I'm I'm not attached energetically to him anymore. And if anything, I feel bad for his soul for having to now have the repercussions of what he's done in this life. So,
And when you ha- did you find that you needed to do any specific forgiveness
mm,
exercises at all, or anything to help with that path of forgiveness? I'm thinking, to help for other for women who are in this position of thinking, well, I've had this and I'm definitely not in a place of forgiving what has happened because of obviously the impact that they would have had on their life and still having on their life from the experience, because it carries on,
mhm.
the impact. Did you find anything specifically helped with forgiveness?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I'm glad you said that because you don't have to forgive. Like, I forgive him for myself, and
Yes.
because it released me of my burdens. I'm not
Yeah.
like, that's where it started, was me detaching from that and every day doing the work to heal my chakras, to heal my soul, to heal my aura, to heal my body. So that naturally led me to knowing that forgiveness is the most light, like not heavy route to my healing. So it was a benefit to me to forgive him, because then if I go through my entire life of hating him, then he's re-traumatizing me every single day, and that's not the way I want to live my life. So it was this, not immediate, but it was this natural awareness that overcame me in the journey of working on myself, that I knew, "Oh, okay, I forgive him. Oh, I forgive the police officer." And I wish them their own healing journeys, because I'm not them. I'm not the one or I'm not him. I'm gonna focus more on him. I'm not the one that has to go through life hurting people. Like, that's horrible existence. And I don't want any part of that. I don't want any energetic tie to somebody like that, but I can still just forgive and wish him well, and look at the parts that this opportunity gave me. It gave me a new career. It gave me a new understanding of my intuitive gifts. It gave me, being able to bless others with what I've learned through this, and I focus on those things. But I don't think it's necessary to push yourself to forgive somebody, especially if it's like an abuser for years. Like, some people get abused by the same person for years. Like, that's gonna take a really long time, and just honor yourself in that process. Don't push yourself to forgive. Like, just truly focus on yourself.
Massively. And listening to your body and what information you're being given and following that route. And
Yeah.
really, when you're speaking, what's really coming through for me is how you you have self-love for yourself and worthiness for yourself, to know that you are worthy of healing. You are worthy of love and loving yourself enough to know that that is the journey and that's the path that you are wanting and needing to go on. And I feel that that bigger piece of having faith in the universe, in source, in God, that really helps. Having that view of it's not is letting it go and seeing the lessons and what can be learned from it. And I think that is so, 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 so hard to do.
Yeah.
But I feel for when I look back in at trauma and things that have happened in my life, it's always at the place of what am I learning from this? Why would I have put this into my life? But I think this also goes back to this belief within ourselves that, we set this up as Earth School. We set it up to learn and grow and evolve as souls. And when we have that, it changes how it feels to be in certain situations. It changes it because you kind of think, well, I would have done it, set this up for a reason. And what am I supposed to be learning and growing from this? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so life-changing to realize that we are on Earth School,
Yeah.
and we are supposed to learn and grow from these situations, because You can take your power back from everything and everyone that's ever taken from you, or
Yeah.
you giving your power away to, or they've convinced you you need to give your power away. And you take it back and go, I created this life for myself. I made choices in this life and before I came to this life about how this was going to go. And I did it for the evolution of my soul.
Yeah.
Well, what can I do with that now? What can I trust God. I trust the universe will put me on the right path to find the healer I need, find the therapist I need, to find the group I need to guide me through this heavy event in my life. And when you sort of surrender to that, it really does fall into place. Like how I found Doreen and how I found, and then I was in this beautiful house by the beach, and like everything was through my surrender and knowing I don't know what to do. Universe, tell me what's next because I need help. And sort of calling out that I need help is so important too. And I love what you said about self love because that really is the catalyst to knowing you're worthy of help. You're worthy of healing. You're worthy of taking the time and the effort and the energy to get yourself into a better place. And that all stems from self love. And maybe you got yourself in the situation because there was a lack of that. So, how do you get yourself out of that situation? Is fill yourself with that and going on the journey of reading books and listening to podcasts and surrounding yourself with people that pour that love into you.
Yeah.
And that was the meditation I did every night. It was a self-love meditation because that is like the most healing frequency on this planet.
Wow. And if there is some advice or something you would say to both men and women here listening to this, what would you share?
I would say you will be okay. Things do get better. Time does heal things. And stay open to life. Stay open. You do not need to close yourself off to the goodness that life has to offer because you have experienced the darkness. There is an awareness now that you won't ever be the same once you've experienced something like this. Like you are more aware of the evils of the world or the dark parts of the world. But that doesn't mean that the good and the beauty and the healing and the light doesn't exist anymore. They just are both here and we get to choose which frequency we want to reside on.
I love that.
So stay open.
Mm,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much for being on, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye bye.